D-Tron did this.
I like that one.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of D-Tron Does It. Of course, I am D-Tron and I does stuff. And this week, as you can probably tell, I am in my garage, but we are going to pretend that I'm in a warehouse. The reason is I got a new product that I'm going to be opening up, got sent to me. It is a UFO warehouse area light. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's cool because before they sent me the product, I didn't know either. But after today's video, hopefully you're going to be running out to grab this thing if you have a warehouse or large workspace that doesn't have adequate lighting. But before we tear open this box and show you what's inside and test out all the products, I love to ask you to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button, get some alerts, all the good stuff. And if you decide not to do any of that, you know what? I won't even be mad at you. All right, so let's get the box open and see what this thing looks like. While I get this thing unboxed, let me tell you a little bit about what the company shared with me regarding this light. This thing was designed for industrial and commercial settings, which is not exactly where I'm going to test it at, but it comes with 3 power adjustments. You can do 150 watt, 100 watt, and 80 watts, so it is dimmable. Again, it is intended for large workshops, large warehouses, garages, barns, or outdoor spaces. It's definitely not intended for small spaces because the thing is pretty big and it's heavy. In addition to being able to adjust the power on this light, it also has a couple of different methods by which you can install it. I'm going to explore a few of those later on in the video about ways that I would use it if I had it set up. It's also water resistant, impact resistant. These things are highly safety tested, and later in the video I'll give you my pros and cons of this light as I test it out. Now, this is probably the coolest part. These products come with an unconditional refund policy and a 5-year warranty backed up by certifications from the company. This thing looks like a high quality product. I'm gonna take it out to the garage. I'm gonna test it out and see what kind of light this thing is putting off. All right, so this is what my garage looks like with just the garage door light on and the garage door open. You can see it's pretty dim in here, and I would not ideally work in a space that's lit like this. Let me show you what it's like when I have my overhead lights on. So normally this is the space that I work in and the lighting that I have. Now I'm gonna show you an example with the lights off and the UFO light on, what it looks like. This is a crazy amount of light for this space. It instantly brightened up everything around me. And the higher this thing goes, the more space it covers with light. This, I don't even want to look directly into it, is amazingly bright. Now let me show you what it looks like when you're working on a project and you really need to be able to see the details. With my garage door closed, this is what it looks like when I'm trying to work on a project without turning my overhead lights on. Now let's see what it looks like when I have the overhead light available to me. Now this same space with the overhead light is instantly lit up. Now I've got the ability to see everything happening here, and I can make sure that I'm being safe as I'm working in this space. Again, the further you go up with this light, the more area it'll cover. But since I have it down pretty low, I'm getting all of the benefits of this super bright light. This LED light is doing it all for me. Really, this is so much light in this space right now. So it's a late summer day, nearly 8 o'clock, and you can see that it's dark. So if you needed to change your oil or work in your engine bay, it might be pretty difficult to do without some sort of light. Well, imagine getting this much light in your engine bay while you're trying to work. Check out how bright this light makes your engine bay if you're trying to do work. Again, this thing is intended to be set up in a warehouse, but certainly has multiple uses for this kind of really bright area light. So I originally installed the hook when I first took it out of the box, but that is not the only way that you can install it. I did mention there's multiple ways that you could install it. You could use that hook and just hook it right on to any metal rod you have in your shop. You can lift this bracket up by loosening those screws, and now you can install a hanging chain or mount this thing to a wall with the light shining out. Here I'm connecting it to 2 metal hooks that I have just to display what the light looks like when it's shining directly on something. I was talking to the camera, but I didn't have my microphone on, but I'm basically telling you the same thing that I'm telling you now. Watch, I'll plug it in and then I'll show you the area that it's pointing at. This is what it looks like without that light on. And then as soon as I turn that light on, you get this, really brightening that space. I think for my garage, I would only need 1 of these. As long as I install it high enough, it would give me great coverage. All right, so I got some pros and some cons for this light. Probably the biggest pro is how bright it is. The second pro I have for this thing is just how durably this thing is constructed. I think the third pro for this light is the ability to mount it in different ways. So of course you have the hook that's included. You can also hook this thing up to the wall if you want. You can do a side mount, or you can do a safety chain mount to here. You just adjust these screws and lift it up. There's a lot of different ways that you can set up this warehouse UFO light to be used. I feel like the flexibility that you have there is probably the third best thing about this light. So the first con that I have for this light has to do with the workspace that I'm testing it out in. So this thing does not have an on-off switch. You have to plug it in, and then when you plug it in, it's on. Unless you're using the dimmer feature and you have hardwired this thing to an actual cutoff, your light's gonna stay on. And so you've got to either unplug it, or if you're using a power strip, you got to flick the switch on your power strip, potentially turning off the power to all of the devices that you have. Again, this design is set up for larger warehouse space, something where you can hardwire this thing in. Again, the practicality of having to unplug it or plug it back in every time you need to use it here in your shop may be a turn off for some people. The second con that I have is it gets hot. Now, I am no light temperature analyst. I don't even know if that exists. But the shell of this light got really warm in using it, and I only had it plugged up for about 35 minutes. So again, it is intended to be used in a larger space, somewhere that it is not coming in contact with things and no one's having to touch it. But if you're using this in a workspace in your garage or in maybe your barn, you want to keep this thing away from other things because it gets really hot. You don't want to handle this with your hands after you had it plugged up for a while, because this is all metal, durably constructed, but it does heat up as that light is on. Really, those are the only two cons that I have for this light. It gets really hot and there's no on-off switch that you can use inside of a shop. But other than that, this thing is super bright. It is adjustable in so many ways. It's dimmable. It really lights up a space. So if you're in the market for a warehouse light that you need to cover a lot of space, this thing will definitely do the job. All right, guys, that's it for today's review of this UFO light. I hope it was helpful if you're in the market for one of these things. If so, definitely leave me a comment either way. I love to respond back to them. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. And if you decide not to do any of that, you know what? I won't even be mad at you. Till next time, guys. Peace.